Trump's first visit with a foreign leader since becoming president-elect. He met with the Prime Minister of Japan yesterday, Shinzo Abe, but the topics discussed, they remain unknown. Then there's this surprise. Trump's daughter and son-in-law, Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner, were both present at the meeting, but no press was allowed. And critics are blasting that decision as a lack of transparency. Instead, Team Trump released its own pictures of the meeting, which we have decided not to air. Joining me now, senior writer for Newsweek, Kurt Eichenwald, and investigative journalist and Esquire contributor, Vicky Ward. Kurt, I want to start with you. Ivanka at this meeting. This complicates the notion that she will run a blind trust. First of all, if Donald Trump's children ran his business, it wouldn't be a blind trust. But how do they continue this narrative that the kids will be on one side running the business and he will be running the government? How does Ivanka sit in on that meeting? Well, it's an appalling lack of diplomacy for the Japanese. I mean, Japan is very, very specific on its diplomatic protocol. And there's already a reaction in Japan of, what is this woman doing here? She's a family member. This isn't old home week. And if they're going to keep with what they're saying, that Ivanka is going to run the business, that doesn't solve any of the problems. Number one, you're right. It's not a blind trust. You can't put a company in a blind trust. It's like saying I put an apple in a bag. I don't know what's in the bag anymore. But they've got to get in or out. And if they're going to be part of the government or if they're going to be advisors, they need to get that clear, sell or liquidate the company, because the conflicts of interests are simply so huge that they cannot be repaired, and move on. Or she needs to get out. I mean, you cannot play it both ways. We've been saying this for days, and legally, she doesn't have to. Legally, they said, hey, press, you don't like it? Get out. And none of us were there last night. No, they don't have to do it. And that's the thing. If Donald Trump wants to go down in history as, the most conflicted, a president who doesn't understand the job, then he can choose to do that. That's true. But that's why, I mean, when you hear things like maybe Mitt Romney will be Secretary of State, I mean, I hope so, because that would be somebody who understands these sort of delicate relationships. But it'll come down to the question of, does Donald Trump want his friends sitting around who aren't qualified and who create these conflicts, or does he want to have an effective administration? Vicky, who is Jared Kushner? Yes, he is his son-in-law. Yesterday, a Trump transition team member compared him to Alexander Hamilton, and an academic. Who exactly is Jared?
Well, Jared is very like Donald. They both are very ambitious, successful real estate developers who know a great deal about branding. Jared Kushner has a very different style about him than his father-in-law. But actually, if you look at what he's done, it's a fantastic rehabilitation, rebranding of the Kushner name. His father was sent to jail around 2004 by Chris Christie. And, Jared, then in his 20s, moved the Kushner Company's real estate firm into New York, into the most expensive New York office building, out of New Jersey, crossing the river, just like Donald Trump had done, but from Queens many decades earlier. And then he buys a New York newspaper, the New York Observer, and then he marries Ivanka Trump, who had to convert to Orthodox Judaism in a very prominent wedding covered by Vogue. These are, Jared is described as low-key. These are not the actions of someone who is low-key. They're also, very strategic. And one of the things that I think, I've noticed in my reporting, both for my piece in Esquire in October, I've also reported on Donald for many, many years, is sort of how these two real estate minds align. And Jared knows how to strategize. One saw him in the summer using social media. He didn't care that he sort of fell out with all his New York social and professional acquaintances who were horrified by the Trump campaign, because he knew that there was a swathe of middle America that Donald Trump spoke to. And he was quietly doing the math and strategizing. So I think right now you see his sort of calm, cool, careful strategy who Donald Trump, sitting next to his father-in-law has come to greatly rely on Jared Kushner, and that's why he's sitting there with him.
Jared's proven he's pretty good at math. All right, Vicky.
Yes.
Kurt, thank you both. We got to take a